Verse 45. Things are discriminated by the ignorant as heat, fluidity, motility, and solidity. They are, however, unrealities asserted. There is neither signified nor signifying. In verse 40, those who listened to the Dharma were described as ignorant. And here there's a certain practice being described, discrimination into heat, fluidity, motility and solidity. This kind of discrimination is actually quite useful from a spiritual point of view. But let's look at this list first of all. Heat, fluidity, motility and solidity. This clearly refers to the four classical elements: fire, water, air and earth. And for further information about this, I'd refer you to another excellent article on Wikipedia called Mahabhuta, which means the great elements. Now there's more to this than meets the eye, because it's not the elements themselves that are mentioned here, but their characteristics. What we've got here in these four terms are an accurate description of our essential experience. What we've got are the limitations to our physical freedom being described. These four features are what circumscribe our movement. It's what limits our apparent freedom. They are what define a sense of physical limitation. So for example, the first one, heat. If there's a blazing fire in front of you, you draw back. That's a limitation. It gives us a clear boundary. This is obviously the case with solidity as well. If there's a mountain in front of us, we can't go through. We have to turn around. Motility is being able to move, so that's the opposite of solidity. This gives us a degree of freedom, so we can move. And fluidity represents an intermediate degree. We can move, but with some difficulty. So fluidity gives a degree of movement. Fluidity is the opposite of jagged or rough. So there's a spectrum there of smoothness, of friction, of texture. So perhaps we can understand fluidity here as friction or texture. We might have some sandy ground ahead of us, or some rocky ground, or glass strewn ground, whatever. So all these things limit us, they limit our freedom of movement, which ranges from being completely free to not being able to move at all. So this is what we've actually got. We've got no resistance, or we've got a lot of resistance, and there's various levels in between. And all this relates to the sense of touch. Touch is either resistance, freedom, in terms of temperature or texture. And this is what the early Buddhist training would have focused on. In fact, these four elements are four of the traditional objects of meditation. They're certainly worth contemplating. The trouble is taking them as fundamentally real, and this is where the description of ignorant comes in. The early Buddhists were very good at analysing things into their basic components. It's rather similar to the person nowadays who believes that everything is essentially atoms. It's all just atoms doing their thing, or some other fundamental particle. It's a very impoverished picture of reality. And the thing is, it isn't real at all. That's the point. It's unrealities that are being asserted. There is neither signified nor signifying. If you want to insist that the world is something real, you can analyze it and you can break it down and you can see it's actually mainly empty space. This is what the scientists will tell us. But they'll still insist there's some sort of fundamental building block, and much of physics is still concerned with the search for this ultimate building block. But it's like asking, what is a mountain in your dream made up of? Because the physical world, in common with dreams, are what is presented to our awareness. It's our awareness which says it's real. It doesn't matter if we're awake or a dream. When we're in the dream, we say it's real. When we're awake, we say it's real. But they are both the play of consciousness. They are all of the nature of dream objects. They're not made up of anything except other dream objects. In fact, they're not even made up of other dream objects.